Hey guys, so a really great way to practice your functional groups is to identify them in molecules. So here we have a just whole list of molecules that have a variety of different functional groups associated with them. And what it says is to classify each of the following by their functional group. So how this is going to look, we'll do the first one together and then you guys can pause the video, is that you're going to circle the atoms responsible for the particular functional group and then you'll name it. So I'm going to circle this and write alcohol. Those are all of the functional groups in this particular molecule. So that's what you'll do. Circle and name each of the functional groups in the molecules. These could have one functional group. They could have 3 or 4 functional groups. Sky's the limit. So go ahead and pause the video, go through and try and identify all of the functional groups that you can. And then I will start going through them right now. So pause your video. Do it. I believe in you. Woohoo! Okay, we're going to go through it. You'll start to notice I'm a little bit goofy sometimes, but that's okay. Okay, going to B. We have a carbonyl here connected to 2 carbons. This is going to be a ketone. Something to keep in mind when you're talking about ketones, it's not K-E-Y tone, it's K-E-T-O-N-E. I don't really know why, but there's no Y in ketone, even though it sounds like you're pronouncing a Y. That is the only functional group in B. Let's go down to C and D. Let's go with orange. Okay, so here we have an aromatic group, aromatic compound. I'm just going to write aromatic. And then on this other side, we have a carbonyl with an R group on one side, or a carbon-based group on one side, and a hydrogen on the other. That is an aldehyde. Great job, guys. Let's keep going. In D, in D, we have a carbon-carbon triple bond. That is going to be a alkyne. Remember, the Y represents triple bond. And then this is going to be a little bit tricky in that this nitrogen here, you want to say, oh, that's an amine. Well, no, because the nitrogen is connected to a carbonyl. Therefore, this is an amide. Amide. Okay, continuing on, let's go to E. We have a carbon-carbon double bond, which is an alkene. And then we have a carbonyl next to an OR group. That is an ester. F, going on to F, we have just one. We have the carbonyl next to an OH. That is called a carboxylic acid. I think I spelled that right. Never can spell that. Okay, down to G. We have carbon, oxygen, carbon. That is an ether. That's all that one has. Oh, this one down here has more. H, we have the SH bond, a thiol. And then we also have a carbonyl next to a nitrogen. That is called an amide. Again, be careful with amines versus amides. Great job, keep going. Let's go to I. I'm going to go ahead and just circle that amide again. Notice how now we have an amide with the nitrogen has 2 hydrogens. Before we had a carbon off of the nitrogen. Those are both still amides. And then we have our carbon-carbon triple bond is an alkyne. Okay, we have over here in J a thiol. We also have an aromatic ring. And then lastly, we have a carboxylic acid. Beautiful. So just like amines and amides, you have to be careful when looking at carboxylic acids because you see the OH and you're immediately like, ha, alcohol, got it. But no, you have to look and see if there's carbonyl next to it. So in this case, there's a carbonyl there, so it is a carboxylic acid. Okay, so let's keep going. In K, we have carbon, sulfur, carbon. This is a thioether. That's all that one has. We have carbon, carbonyl, carbon. This is called a ketone. Remember, no Y. And our last column, we have M. This double bond here, carbon-carbon double bond, is an alkene. And then we have a carbon, sulfur, carbon, thioether. Okay, and in N, we have a carbon-carbon double bond. It's again an alkene. Carbonyl next to a hydrogen is an aldehyde. O, we have a sulfur with a hydrogen off of it, so this is a thiol. And then we also have a carbonyl with a carbon on either side. This is called a ketone. And our last one, P down here, we have a carbonyl next to a OR group. So this is an ester. I always get esters and ethers mixed up. If I come up with a really good way to remember them, I'll remind you. I don't really know how I remember them, but it took me about 5 years to remember them fully. So don't feel too bad if some of these trip you up. We have an aromatic group. And then lastly, we have a carbonyl with a carbon on either side. And this is called a ketone. How'd you guys do? There's a lot of them in there. I did notice after doing this worksheet and getting it ready for this lecture, I realized there are no amines on this page. So make sure you guys practice amines as well. A great way to practice this again is to just find cool molecules and label their functional groups. I'm sure there's lots of practice quizzes, practice worksheets and everything, and I can even post some more practice of these. If you guys would like, just let me know. But those are our functional groups. Get to memorizing these, and I will see you. I'm going to put a little aside right now. We try not to memorize a ton of things in organic chemistry, but names are one thing we have to memorize. Similar to biology, you have to remember the names in biology. Well, in chemistry, we have to remember at least names, and then from there, we try not to memorize as much. So these are going to be one of the only things that I ask you to try and memorize as best as you can. And to be honest, just practicing it over and over is the best way to do that. So here's your answers to your first practice worksheet on these functional groups. Keep practicing and I'll see you guys in the next video.